Interface Video presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and the Frankie Smith Funeral Home.
Hello friends, and welcome to Fairfield Today. I'm your host, Paul Jasson. Thank you for joining us. We are broadcasting from the lobby downtown at Fairfield Federal. And as we begin our taping today, it is absolutely a beautiful day. Can't say that every day, but today it's a beautiful day downtown here. And we hope for good weather to come. We'll talk about an event pretty soon that a lot of that hinges on good weather. The second half of the show today, we're going to bring in our good friend Mike Tharp, head of the Parks Department here in Lancaster, and does such a great job with so many events around the county, and certainly in the city, but around the county. The parks are so involved in so many things. We'll talk to Mike about other things going on in the Parks Department. So not only the bandstand behind us, but so many other things. That's in the second half of the show today. But again, weather can determine good or bad. So many moments in events that are coming up throughout the summer. And one of the many outside events, and this is certainly an outside event, Tour de Cause number 10, if you can imagine that. And good to have back with us Ron Burriss, who 10 years ago kind of came up with this concept and said, let's give this a roll. And now 10 years later, fast forward, and golly, the numbers are staggering, and the people that have been involved and the community that involvement is just, it's really almost staggering.
It's hard to believe that, 10 years ago that we kicked this off as just a bike ride, and we didn't know what to do with the few $1,000s we were going to raise, and here we are 10 years later, $480,000 raised.
Well, and the what you pick to use it on, how would you know that that is one of, if not the main thing, that you can't go a day on the news, even locally with Dave Trimmer in the old days and the drug courts and everything, but the opioid epidemic, you can't watch a 60-minute show that there's not something on about that. And so you pick a cause, the Tour de Cause, you pick a reason to give the money, and it turns out to be the perfect thing.
Yeah. Number one issue I think the country has right now is the opioid and drug addiction. And 10 years ago, it was just started to be something that was on the front page of the paper. And people, 10 years ago, people didn't really want to talk about it. I've mentioned this to you before, many times, or maybe on this show even before, where, if your son or your daughter or your wife has cancer, you're not afraid to tell somebody, my wife's got cancer. But if they got a drug issue, you're not openly going to say, my son's got a drug addiction. We're just now starting to feel comfortable in sharing that information, and by sharing it, you get help.
And just to tie in with that, I know there's commercials now that run on TV along these same lines, like mom saying, well, I have these prescription drugs, my son doesn't take these, they live in denial,
right.
Ohio.
That's a great commercial.
So that, and that's right up your alley, what you're saying. I says, people, their kids wouldn't do it because they have good kids.
Right, yeah, no.
A lot of good kids get it.
It affects, it's like cancer. You can't now, in today's age, you cannot talk to anyone that drug addiction has not affected. It may not affect immediate family, but there's someone in the family that has problems with addiction.
I mention that often when I'm speaking more about, let's say, cancer. When I was a kid, I don't think I knew anybody that had cancer. There probably were people around. But it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't. Now I don't know a family that doesn't have that in it. And the same would be for some form of drug, something going on, whether it's an addiction or a one-time deal. Everything hits everybody, and it crosses all socioeconomic ladders. There's poor people, there's rich people, there's all races, all creeds. Everything's involved in this. It doesn't select anybody out.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So it's Tour de Cause number 10.
Number 10.
A cause worth fighting for. Good thing there. It's coming up the 13th. Golly, right on us this weekend, and here it is. I know you're going to hope for a day like this when you roll this.
We've been really, really lucky in 10 years, really we haven't had a complete rain out. It's kind of like
Yeah.
the 4th of July,
Yeah.
and, been on the 4th of July committee for like 27, 28 years, and we really haven't had that where it rains all day.
Yes.
And we've been very lucky here where, it starts to rain at 7 o'clock in the morning and it doesn't quit all day.
Yeah.
We haven't had that. That's what we need.
Let's make it
because-
number 10 like
yes,
that. Yeah.
because it is rain or shine. I mean, we will not cancel this event. I mean, we'll go on no matter what. And yes, with it being the 10th year, Saturday at OUL.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So it's Saturday morning, OUL. When do things get underway?
Registration opens at 7 o'clock, and there'll be people there on the
And you can
routes.
register there.
You can register there. You can register online at tourdecause.org, and you can also donate there. We have, again, identical routes that we had last year, and we've
And they're different lengths?
Yep, we have a 12-mile bike route, which is basically all on the bike path. Don't have to get on the road, so if you're not comfortable in mixing it up with the cars,
Sure.
you can stay on the bike path for 12 miles. Then we have a 20-mile route that will take you out on the road. It's kind of a entry level to if you're just now starting to ride on the road and you want to try this. It's very, very flat, very comfortable for somebody that just now starting to ride on the road. And then we have a 40-mile. That's going to get you some hills, a little more work out there. It's going to take a little more time. I wouldn't suggest doing a 40-mile route your first ride this year. If you're going to dust your bike off the garage, out of the garage, bring it out. I wouldn't recommend this 40
Ease
mile.
into this a little bit.
Right. And then we have the 70 mile, which is, as you people know, Fairfield County, you're not going to ride 70 miles in Fairfield County without hitting some hills. I would recommend that you'd be a veteran cyclist to do the 70 mile. You got some miles underneath of you. You got some saddle time to be able to do the 70 mile. But all the roads are fully marked. There's support people out there to help if you got mechanical problems. You'll get a map that shows turn-by-turn direction. So it's just not like a ride where we say, show up, take off, and we'll see you in a couple hours. We've got full support. We're with you all the way. And like I say, if you got mechanical or medical issues, we're there to help.
You got some rest stops along the way for
Multiple.
people that need those.
Multiple rest stops, and the rest stops are just not, water. There, you get full supply of food, nutrition to keep you going. So, if
So like a
anything,
road race.
Yeah, most bike rides, if you weigh in at the beginning and then you weigh in at the end, you lose weight.
Sure.
Okay. This one, I'll guarantee you will gain weight.
If you take advantage of all the stops.
If you eat all the food we provide, you will gain weight.
So everybody kicks off at the same time. All the races begin together.
Oh well, no, they actually don't. It's
Okay.
it's you can, but we have recommended start times based on what route, because we'd like everybody to be close to being done, except the long route, to be done around 12 or 1, because that's when we have our lunch by Christie's Pizza is going to come in, going to provide all the pizza again for free.
Nice.
And they've been with us for 10 years.
Jason and all those guys do
Yep.
such a great job.
Yep. Chris Hammock is on our board.
Oh, nice.
So all the food is sponsored by someone within the community, because we really pay for nothing.
Yeah.
This 100% of the money goes to the recovery center. We've been doing this for 10 years, and nobody's getting paid for this. So the money we get, 100% of it goes to the recovery center.
Talking with Ron Burriss 10 years ago, came up with this idea. What can we do? He was a biker. How can this turn this into something? And now 10 years later, it's not a little cottage industry. This is a big deal coming up Saturday. This is a lot going on. And I'll say something, and I know you'll follow up with that. What a good community this is to be involved. Again, I mentioned Dave Trimmer, who originally started the drug court. Jim Fields across the street now keeps that going. But, you've got the sheriff, you've got the police, the highway patrol, all kind of service agencies and government agencies out of Job and Family Services, the Adam H. Everything is so involved in this.
Yeah, that's what amazes me every year. When we started this, the community just steps up. The businesses, we're sitting here in Fairfield Federal. They donate every year.
Yep.
The banks, all the businesses, just step up and
Yeah.
donate some serious money. I mean,
Sure.
Fairfield Medical Center has been our top sponsor for every year. I mean, it's just amazing. Every year they come to the rescue and just make this happen. I mean, it's like I go out and raise the money, but it seems like they know I'm coming.
Oh.
This time of the year, they know I'm
The
coming.
door's
for
not
money.
locked.
Yeah, and they let me in. They write me a check.
And they know why you're there.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
okay, here comes Ron again with asking for money. And
I can hear the intercom, boss. Ron Burriss is here.
Yeah,
I go,
exactly.
okay, send him in. They
Yeah,
know why Ron's here.
Yeah, and it's like it happens,
Yeah.
So yeah, and
It's such a giving community, and again, certainly, I talked to enough social agencies, Lutherans and Maywood Mission, and all that go on around here with clinics and stuff. Golly, we've got a problem. No worse, no better, but we've got a problem just
right.
like everybody does.
Yep, we're not unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, 10 years later, the number you gave was you'll be over $500,000 this year.
We'll be over $500,000. With the fundraising that we've got so far, I can pretty much say we're going to top $500,000 in 10 years. So
How many years you've been riding?
more than 10 years.
Yeah.
Don't know. I took some time off, but I've been riding a bike probably since high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
But who would have ever thought in your wildest dreams
Yeah.
that something that you take up for just a bit of exercise, perhaps, no more than that,
Right.
that there's no bigger picture here. You're just taking up because you want to do something with your time. That's why I
Right.
took up road racing. Now fast forward to 2019 into 2020, it would be such a presence in the community,
Yeah.
and have such an impact on a terrible problem.
Right. And that's a great point, Paul. I mean, I ride 4,000 miles a year on a bicycle, and it is so easy for me to sit back and put this on because I love cycling. But it does. I mean, it's the return. What we get on this is doing such. I mean, we're saving lives. I mean, you can talk to Tricia Farrar at the Recovery Center, and the money that we're giving her and giving the Recovery Center, honestly, is saving lives. I mean, what other thing can you do in this community that doing something that I love to do is riding a bike,
Yeah.
and then I mean, I don't ride the event. 10 years, I have never ridden this event. I've ridden all the routes, but I'm so busy that day that I can't ride. I even told my wife yesterday, I said, so are you going to let me ride? She says, no, you're going to be there with me because I drug her in it 10 years ago.
You're not getting out of this. You're going to sit there and answer all the questions that
Yeah.
come up each and every
Oh,
year.
yeah, it is a very, very busy day.
So tell us again how people can get registered for this.
Yeah, you can tourdecause.org, great website. You can go there, get registered, and sign up for any of the routes. And you can even pay there. And also you can show up at the event.
This is OUL.
OUL. You can show up at the event at that day and register then. So there's no excuses. If you don't want to do the online thing, show up on Saturday, July 13th, and we'll take your registration then.
Tourdecause.org is the website. All the information, very interactive, a lot going on there. You can find all this information out. 740-318-1770 is the number if you want to call and get some more information. It's a cause worth fighting for. That's their bicycle tour. Ron, thanks for what you've done for the community.
Paul. Thank you
Been
again.
a real asset and a gem. Always fun to have you
Yeah,
on.
always
I hope
great.
we'll pull for weather like this.
Yes, I hope so.
Ron Burriss and Tour de Cause. We'll be back with Mike Tharp in a moment.
The Frank E. Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our two locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster or 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. Respect for tradition, regard for change.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. I'm your host, Paul Jasson. I want to thank Ron Burriss for coming in and talking about such a great deal there with the Tour de Cause, one of the great moments in Lancaster and Fairfield County that helps so many people for, again, this is the 10th anniversary of that. We'll talk with Mike Tharp in the Lancaster Parks Department in just a moment. I want to mention, and that kind of ties into what we're going to talk about here with Fairfield Federal. Usually this is a commercial spot in the show, and we talk about them, and we will, because we'll talk about the Friday night bandstand, and for 30-plus years, they've been involved in what's evolved into now the gazebo behind us, and it's a big deal down there. We've got stages, used to be from the gazebo, now the parks and everybody, and Fairfield Federal put up a nice stage out there. It's such a nice venue out there, and for several of the evenings, I remember back when Deb Wright had her thing in here, that was the longest day, but there were food trucks here. The British invasion coming up this week, and they're going to have food trucks down there for that. Mike will talk more about that coming up, but just an exciting time for Friday night bandstand. And still left is the British invasion. Then, of course, a couple weeks off for the Lancaster Festival. Then it's a blues band, Dirty Jack, Blue Steel, country hits, and Redneck Rockers, Hillbilly Deluxe will wrap up the Friday night bandstands on August 16th. So again, we want to thank the parks who have partnered with Fairfield Federal for so many years and made all this possible and made it happen. It's a great time down there on a Friday night. So this Friday will be no different. We'll talk about that in a moment. Want to bring in Mike Tharp. Mike, how you doing, brother?
Good, sir.
Good to have you here.
I love how you said we're going to take a couple weeks off for the festival. Those are the busiest 2 weeks.
Well, for normal people.
Yeah.
For you, I mean, it never stops, but it probably is much busier then, because downtown and all the venues that you're involved with around, whether it's the Rising Park or the fairgrounds, things that you have contact with all over, pretty hectic. But a good hectic.
It is. It's the most enjoyable time of the year.
Sure.
So, yes.
You don't have to worry about coming into work every day. What am I going to do today?
You don't get off work in those 2 weeks. You just kind of stay on call and stay in the groove, and it's okay. It's part
If you
of
want some
what we
rest,
do.
you got to turn your phone off, because it's going to keep coming.
That doesn't work. They know where I live.
Mike Tharp, who's the head of the Parks Department, and does such a great job. The parks are, and again, I kid often about I could have Mike on about every week, because the parks are involved in so many events around here, whether we talk about Rising Park or even the fair or Fair Day or the Lancaster Festival. They've got such a presence there with the bandstand behind us. Soccer out on East Main out there, lots of things going on, and just all the parks they have around town is such a wonderful organization. And we're going to talk about the kind of the pools a little bit, and something kind of close to my heart coming up, a big event, and that's really what prompted me getting Mike on about this. As you know, if you listen to the show at any length of time, I'm a West Side kid. I grew up on the West Side. I believe in things on the West Side. I'm disappointed when things close and move away from the West Side, which over the years, those events have occurred. But one of them that has not only stayed there, but I think in the last 4 or 5 years has gotten better, maybe even than it was when I was a kid, is Miller Pool. And that's something that falls under your domain, and Miller Pool looks great.
Thank you. And the crux of this, of bringing Miller Pool back, you had a big part of that. When you talked about growing up on the West Side and your involvement in that pool, and then Pearline Ruffett, her involvement in that pool.
That was the place to go for any kid in the community. That was it.
You two actually stopped us in our tracks, for me, and we said, hey, we owe it to this community to try and make a run at this pool and bring it back. And so you were a key part of our involvement of getting this back up on its feet. You and Pearline were kind of the voice in the back of my head that said, this community deserves to bring this pool back.
You get Pearline in your head. You're going to be hearing that sound will rerun itself 100 times, because she's like a dog with a bone when she gets on something. But you've had some big events, and you've got a big event coming up.
We've got 2 big events coming up.
Yeah.
We're back into the dive-in movies, and
I love that.
Last year, this light bulb went off with several of us, and it says, wow, wouldn't it be neat to do something during Shark Week that was Jaws oriented? So that quickly turned back to kind of like the movies have downtown. Let's do something retro. Let's try and cater to a kind of a different age group. So we come up with the idea, let's do Jaws, and we got to do it previous to Jaws Week that's on television, because the Lancaster Festival's in town, and we've never tried to compete with the Lancaster Festival. We want to kind of get out of that. So we're going to do it early. We're going to do it July 13th, and we're going to show the original Jaws, which came out in 1975, 77, somewhere back in there. And we're going to, during a movie, we shut off the deep end. We don't allow anybody at the deep end, so they can't use the diving board and obstruct the view of everybody else. So we're going to put some props in the deep end. You know, maybe
Really?
a boat with like a shark,
Nice.
where a shark took a bite out of it, and
I like it.
maybe a big rubber shark in the bottom of the pool that looks like it's swimming. And we stopped short of putting blood in the pool. So, but it's
There is a limit.
there is a limit. But we just want to do something that is completely an attraction, but outside of what we've done in the past.
Sure.
And then we're going to turn around the next week on July 18th, and we were going to do a teen dance, a teen night, like we grew up with.
Absolutely.
Although they were on Friday nights or Saturday nights when you and I come up through Miller Pool. And so we started this process, and we started calling around to try and get support from Sheriff's Department and Police Department, you know, who would sponsor this movie, because they're rather expensive. Even though Jaws has been out since 1970 whatever, it still cost about $500 to be able to show that movie to the public.
Mm-hmm.
So we made a phone call to the Sheriff's Department first, and Chief Deputy Lape got involved and said, well, what if we do some things that night and come in and have a presence? And it was like handing kids candy. They took off with this. Pretty soon it was a disc jockey and a video person, you know, to show videos on a screen, and free hamburgers and free hot dogs, and bringing in the K-9 unit and the SWAT team and giving stuff away. And they just took off and ran with it. So for our side, for the pools, it's like, well, we can't compete with that. So we're going to give you the pool for free that night and let everybody in free. So it's going to turn into July 18th. If you want to come to Miller Pool, it's going
Free
to be
for all.
free for all. You can get in free. You get to eat for free. It's just going to be a community service open pool night sponsored by the Fairfield County Sheriff's Department. And I am completely great with this. This might be the event of the summer for Miller Pool.
How great is that? Again, thanks for what the parks have done for Miller Pool, because I understand that you give it a shot. If it doesn't work, then you move on and things happen. But so far, the community's responded. Here is the Sheriff's Department turning out to do this, and that's just great.
Here a couple weeks ago, we actually had a day, and it's never happened since I've been around. We actually had Miller Pool's attendance beat Tiki's pool attendance, and isn't that something? Proud of that one.
I like it.
Yeah, me
that's
too.
nice. And again, you know, I think in this case, some awareness, some improvements,
Yes.
some money spent, but more than that, it's just emphasis on it. What can it give? And there's a lot of the community that again, a free night that's perfect over there.
A realization that I had not too long ago is our job is to lose money the most efficient way we possibly can. We get a levy. That money from that levy is given to the Parks Department, and we take that money every year and we put it back into the parks in the city of Lancaster, and that is a park. So we don't like to lose a lot of money to one particular spot. We like to spread it around a little bit, but that's our job, is to do the best we can with the money we're given by the citizens of Lancaster.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you do, and we mentioned it in the commercial break between the shows, was the bandstand behind us. And gosh, when I look at the eclectic group of people you've had this year, and not that every year you've done that, because I think the Parks Department does a great job, along with Fairfield Federal, of all kind of genres of music, whether it's metal, whether it's country, and hillbilly in this. Deb Wright had more of a gospel flavor to her show down there, a little first in that area. Of course, you got the community band, you had them, and you got British Invasion coming up, which is always such a huge show. That's turned into a real event on a Friday night. Not that it hasn't been for years, but I think it's been stepped up the last few years.
British Invasion is an event. We've had two that are really considered major events for Friday Night Bandstand. The first one that always opens up the season, of course, is with Bad Influence, and that's a huge turnout.
Big way to start it.
Big way to start it, and such community support for that band. And then we get into British Invasion, which is always the Friday before the festival starts. This year is going to be a little different. Typically, after British Invasion plays, the following week we move in all of the food trucks for the festival.
And it's all about the festival.
It's all about the festival. We've changed it this year. We're actually going to move the food trucks in on Friday morning before British Invasion takes the stage. So all of the Madisons and the Jimmy Jawbreakers and Kona Ice and everybody is going to be set up before British Invasion gets here that evening, and we are going to do this thing right.
And that'll be a big night because they'll have a crowd.
Oh,
you know that.
And we've kind of limited their seating a little bit more this year, so it will look more congested and packed this year because of the food trucks being involved than ever. But
sure.
If you want to see it, you'll find a place.
And if you put it out, they will come.
Yes, sir.
And again, let me compliment. I like the stage where it is this year, away from the street. And there's nothing wrong with that. You do what you have to do. But now you've moved it down closer to the bistro right there, near the alley right there, to the backside of this parking lot here at Fairfield Federal, where you face that, you're kind of away from the traffic, and I think that helped tremendously the sound.
Out of sight, out of mind. We don't find that the horns going up and down, people honking. When people could see the traffic before, we got a lot of people that would honk and rev up engines and stuff like that. But with everyone's back to the street now, to Main Street, the main thoroughfare, it seems to have curtailed or cut that down quite a bit. And if you don't see the traffic, you don't hear it
About
as
the only
much.
way you know it coming down the hill is the lane's blocked off.
Yes.
Other than that, it's just traffic moving through. It's not that big a deal.
Yep.
A good idea.
And the noise from the music from the stage kind of cancels some of the noise from the street. So it's really happy with Friday Night Bandstand and Fairfield Federal's continued involvement. And of course, Gypsy Joe's right now has a storefront right there.
That's real nice
in the
to
bistro.
have that right there. They don't need to bring their wagon out now. They've got a place presence down there right, next to the bistro on the corner right there.
Yep.
You see a lot of people coming over with ice cream in their cups. It's just perfect.
Yep, it's a great environment.
So you've got the festival coming up, which you, of course, have a big presence in that. Got the bandstand going on. We've talked about Miller Pool, big stuff going on there. So really not much else going on. That pretty much it?
Well, we're still registering for flag football. Flag football, we're bringing that back for the first time in several years. We're actually a partnership with the Lancaster Youth Football League. As you know, they play in our parks. They're named after some of our parks. We have a partnership this year with that organization. Next year, we actually take over the Lancaster Youth Football Program. It'll be Parks and Recs program, and I'm excited about that.
Perfect transition. I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Yep. Rising Park Days coming up in the Wednesday in the middle of the festival.
Right.
This year, bigger than better than ever. Huge involvement. Cornhole tournament that we're going to do in August down here on Broad Street where the bandstand takes place. We're going to shut off Broad Street and do a cornhole tournament in August. So we just keep shooting ourselves in the foot as far as activities. It's not like we're busy enough. We keep looking. Our job is to keep as many people involved in an outdoor recreation that we possibly can. We owe it to the citizens to try and create new things, to create an interest, a renewed interest in their park system. And that's our job.
Well, the Parks has a great website. I'd go on there, just type in Lancaster City Parks, Lancaster, Ohio City Parks. You'll come up with their website. It's very interactive, got all the information on there, tons of things to register for and just look up and involved. And so good luck with the food trucks down here with the British Invasion coming up this weekend, and then into the festival and in Miller Pool coming out there. Gosh, there's a lot happening here. So thanks for all you do, and thanks for the Parks Department being such a great neighbor in the community.
Thank you.
Great
Thanks
job.
for supporting us.
Mike Tharp, head of the Lancaster City Parks. Glad to have him with us today. And thank you for joining us on Fairfield Today.
Interface Video presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and the Frankie Smith Funeral Home.